So this is take 2 of this video. The universe loves to play games with me, with us all. We're just the playthings of the gods. And it's very, very fitting because this is about emotional mastery. And it would just so happen that the first video I record doesn't work. So here I am. I'm going to try to go through this again. I thought the first video was amazing, but what an opportunity to go through it again and hopefully solidify my understanding of this information. So again, the two things I'm going to share, radical honesty and nonviolent communication, are communication frameworks that you can use that help us differentiate between the three parts of an emotion, being that there's a subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. So with radical honesty, the process begins by identifying something that we observe in objective reality, just something that happened, usually we use our 5 senses. So we're taking out any emotion or stories out of it. It's just what we observe, what we sense, right? Next is we identify what emotion we feel. And there's love, happiness, joy, gratitude, excitement on one end, and on the more uncomfortable end, it's fear, anger, shyness, sadness, shame, and jealousy. There's also love. I think that love is kind of beyond just an emotion. It is who we are, but we can also feel, I guess, love. And so it's also included in there, but I would say that's like the catch-all. And then the last step involves trying to identify what story, what mental construction we are imagining that caused us to feel certain emotions. And when you do this and you get good at it, you are able to separate the emotion with the story, right? Or you're able to recognize that the story you create, the story you have, is what causes the emotion. And by changing your story, you can change your emotion, right? Even if what you observe is exactly the same. So here I talk about the Wi-Fi not working, and I'll actually use an actual example that just happened, which is that the first video I recorded didn't save and didn't upload, right? So now I have to do it again. So that's something that happened, right? That's something I can observe. And let's say a typical response would be for me to lash out in anger. I can get angry, I can get frustrated, I can throw my water bottle, punch tape, punch something, like throw my laptop, whatever it is, right? Like there's some kind of expressive behavior or expressive response I can do in reaction to the video not uploading. But because I just gone through this process, and I knock on wood that this doesn't happen again, I can separate it. So I can observe, okay, the video didn't upload. That's something that happened, right? I can feel, let's say, angry or sad or shame. And because I imagine that now I have to do it again, I'm wasting my time. I'm imagining that, this is just reinforcing this idea of not being successful, not being where I want to be. And now I'm just having to double back and re-record a video, all this stuff. And I feel shame because maybe I'm not living up to my own expectations, etc. So those are the 3 parts of the radical honesty process, right? And then what I can do is I can realize, okay, my stories are causing my emotions. So if I had different stories, I would have different emotions. So if my story is, well, first of all, good, like what an opportunity for me to re-record this and to be more clear and to further ingrain this knowledge, then maybe my emotion would be happiness or gratitude. Or if I create the story, or if I imagine if the video doesn't work, that this is again an opportunity to not only teach but to learn and to know and to go through this process for myself. It's the universe's way of showing me, like, okay, you're talking about radical honesty, like I want to see you do it, right? I want to see you live it. And so here is a situation that you might have been angry at before. Let's see if you learned your lesson. Like, let's see if you can go through the process yourself in real time, and find more empowering stories. So when I do that, again, my emotional state might be with more gratitude, with more love, more excitement, etc., etc. Beautiful, right? Another framework is nonviolent communication, and this involves more when you're dealing with someone else, and it's very similar in a lot of ways. It just has an extra step or two. And what this nonviolent communication does is it allows us to communicate and express how we're feeling and what we need, without blaming or criticizing someone else. And as the receiver, we can also hear someone and hear what they're feeling and what they need without hearing blame or criticism. And even if they are blaming or criticizing us because they don't know this process, it helps us to not take it personally, because we can break it down with this framework. And why this matters is because when we feel blamed, or when we're blaming, or when we're taking things personally, people get locked into their egos, and then there's no communication, right? People just break down. And so this process allows us to facilitate better communication, more constructive conversations with more empathy, and more potential for healing and fulfilling our actual needs. So the beginning is the same. You start with something you observe. You then go into your feelings. I would say then it's the same with radical honesty. You share what you create, what you imagine, what story you're creating. Then you share what needs are not being met, or whether your needs are being met, and if they're not being met, what kind of request, what concrete positive action language can you take to request for them to do to meet your needs. So the example I gave in the previous video, and I'll use it again, is, let's say I'm living with someone and I have the lights on, and my roommate just turns the light off and leaves, and I'm on an important call with some important clients, let's say. So I typically I could just get angry again and blah 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 blah. But if I go through the process, I can observe that you turn the light off. I feel angry or sad or whatever, because I create the idea that my clients will think I'm unprofessional, or that you're inconsiderate, or blah 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 blah. Maybe you didn't consider whether I need the light, and so what my need of feeling safety or understood is not being met. My request is that in the future, before you turn the light off, you make sure that I'm not using it, for example, and maybe not assume any bad intention. Maybe you were just in your head. Maybe you were just trying to save electricity. You're not being wasteful, etc., being a good steward. And so I'm not assuming negative intent. It's not like you're trying to hurt me or do anything on purpose. Just like, we just maybe more awareness in the future. And likewise, if I'm on the other side and I accidentally turn off the light while my roommate needed it, even if they just immediately act out of anger or frustration and start calling me names, knowing this process helps me not take that personally, and be able to slow things down and share, like, okay, so I turned the light off. That's something you observe. You're feeling angry. You create the story that I'm being inconsiderate, or that I wasn't, thinking about you, blah, blah, blah. Your need to feel, again, and understood and loved or safe is not being met. And so you request that I, pay more attention, or ask if you need the light next time before I just turn it off. Right. And so that allows us, if we're both on the same page, to facilitate discussion in this way, and to remove ourselves from an immediate, expressive or behavioral response of just getting angry and yelling or throwing stuff, or, whatever it is. So these two frameworks really help to break down the different components of an emotion, with the underlying understanding that we can choose our emotions. You don't always need to change your stories right away. Sometimes you just want to express your emotion, and that's okay. There's a time and a place for that. But being able to recognize why you're feeling certain things is also helpful. just to have that awareness, and then to be able to express that anger or sadness or shame in a more constructive way without damaging relationships or being stuck in that vibrational state. So I'm going to end this video. I hope it works this time, and I'm very happy that life taught me a lesson.